Hello and welcome to this interview that is all about emotional eating. My name is Edwina Murphy-Droomer and today I have the great pleasure of interviewing Sarah Cleghorn. Sarah is an certified EFT practitioner and has a degree in psychology, and her burning passion is to help women heal their emotional eating patterns. Thank you so much for being here, Sarah. This topic is very, very dear to my heart at the moment, so I am just dying to hear all that you have to say.
Thank you for having me, Edwina.
Absolute pleasure. So look, I most of my followers will know that I'm currently doing my abundant nutrition weight loss formula, and I think you know a little bit about that as well, Sarah. And this has all come off the back of losing my beautiful sister in April, who died very unexpectedly. She wasn't sick. It was right out of the blue. I'd only seen her a few days before, and then she was just gone. And when after that happened, I was halfway through doing the summit that I was running, the interview series, and trying to support my children through what had happened with their aunt and my mum, who's 84, and, just life just had to keep going. And I think that was sort of my coping mechanism was in staying really busy, but in that all the emotional eating stuff that I've been dealing with my whole life just came rearing to a full, and in went all the junky food and the wine every night, and it was I don't care and whatever, and it's all that comfort stuff. And I know that I'm not alone. I think just about every woman does this, and probably lots of blokes too, but we women maybe are just a bit better speaking about it. So Sarah, if you could talk to us a bit about EFT, there'll be lots of listeners that don't even know what it is. So is that a good place to start?
Yeah, of course. And firstly, I just want to say how sad I was to hear of your sister's passing. It's a terrible thing to experience when she was so young. And my story, whilst I didn't lose anyone, it's fairly similar. I discovered EFT about 12 years ago, and I was in my early 20s and was just going through a really stressful period in my life. I'd been dumped. My boyfriend of the time had told me he'd tried to love me, but he couldn't. And I was, I was moving house, had some stressful housemates. Work was pretty stressful. A couple of the partners at the company I worked for had a massive falling out, and that was impacting the rest of the organisation. My relationship with my mum was a bit rocky at that point in time, and it's just everything together. I didn't have any other coping mechanisms, and I turned to food, and it was, a tub of ice cream and a pack of biscuits and a loaf of bread, almost every night. And I think it isn't just us and it isn't just your listeners, but emotional eating really is pervasive in pop culture. Like I just think of, Bridget Jones, at the beginning of her movie, she's sitting there on her couch by herself with the ice cream and the wine and crying because she's single. And it was a scene that resonated with so many women because we all do it.
Yeah. And
at that point in time, I'd done psychology, but had never really sort of been satisfied with what I'd learned, and sort of gone off to work in the corporate sector, but was still very interested in the impact of the subconscious and all those sorts of things, and trying to understand my own behaviour. And I stumbled across a PDF about EFT that, I downloaded and sneakily printed a copy at work and took it home to experiment on myself. And essentially EFT is a stress management tool. So it's self-applied. You tap on different pressure points on your face and body, and I can go through them in a bit more detail later. But I tried it on myself, and I noticed enough of a shift and a change in me that made me go, there's something to this. I don't understand. This looks completely weird, but there's something about this that has, merit. And so I decided on the basis of that to go and see a practitioner. And so I booked in for a few sessions, and the very first session, he's like, so what would you like to work on? And I was like, my ex and my mum and work. And, I had it all. And he was really trying to drill down into something specific. And at that point in time, I was eating sort of 4 to 5 king-size Kit Kat chunky chocolate bars a day. And I was very ashamed of it. And I tried absolutely everything. I had skinny models up on the fridge to inspire me to eat healthier. I'd been going to the gym, every day was the day I was going to start that new diet. I was trying to shame myself into losing weight. I was trying to crowd out the Kit Kats with vegetables, but absolutely nothing worked. Yeah. And so in this sort of like, well, good luck, buddy sort of attitude, I told the practitioner about all these Kit Kats and how ashamed I was and how I just could not control myself. And I really felt broken. And, you know, his sort of eyes lit up and was like, well, let's work on that. And we did about a 90-minute session, and I walked out of that experience and woke up the next day and I'd forgotten about Kit Kats. And so he called me about 5 days later to check in after the session. He's like, you know, how have you been? And I couldn't actually remember what we'd discussed for much of it. I'd sort of gone into a bit of almost a daze at the end of the session. He's like, have you had any Kit Kats recently? And I was like, oh my goodness, no, I haven't. And it was if the wiring in my brain that sort of connected stress leads to Kit Kats had just been severed using the EFT. And that experience, I suppose, kickstarted me on this journey. And I was firstly flabbergasted and very like sort of curious and surprised. And I dove into, you know, all the literature I could find. I did every course. I became certified. I read every book and became, you know, sort of a total junkie on EFT, tapped on myself every single day and really worked through a lot of my own emotional eating issues, and then sort of took that into a practice with clients. And yeah, here I am now trying to sort of spread the word and to get as many women and men and children across the world tapping as possible, because I do think it is such an effective, low cost, low impact way to regulate your stress and really sort of allow yourself to choose healthier behaviours instead of the unhealthier ones when you are faced with those tricky decision points in life.
I just love the idea of introducing women to something that they can do themselves. This whole idea of empowering us to take control of our own health, physical, emotional, is just, so this is just another tool that really fits into that so beautifully. And so I'm dying to learn more.
Yeah, absolutely. And the great thing about it is EFT, it's really, there's a growing body of evidence behind it. So there's a terrific associate professor of psychology at Bond Uni on the Gold Coast who's published a lot of research demonstrating sort of a reduction in cravings, you know, over a 6-week period of a whole lot of foods that are considered, you know, sort of less healthy for you than others, things like chips and chocolate and other processed food. There's a terrific study out of the US that's demonstrated via saliva tests that EFT reduces cortisol after a 30-minute session. And obviously cortisol is the stress hormone and has a huge impact on your body. And it's just sort of all these things I've experienced myself and other practitioners are experiencing. It really is beginning to come through in the journals and sort of becoming much more sort of professional and, you know, more widely known.
Yeah. So I think it's, you know, can we get an idea of what it actually looks like? That's, you know, I guess that's the key. And is it, you talk about tapping on different points. Is there different points for, you know, if we're stressed from work, is that different to emotional eating tapping? Or so there's lots of different points. Is that?
I'll take you through it. I'll do a bit of a demo if that helps. I think that'd be terrific. Essentially, you tap on all the same points and you use the same process for everything that's stressing you out. And I suppose the thing I'll start by saying is that you can use it on things that are stressing you in the present, or you can use it to release that sort of traumatic memory of something that stressed you out in the past. So sometimes we turn to food and overeat or emotional eat because that food has a connection to something in our past, whether it be, you know, the cakes that grandma made us, and grandma made us feel safe and loved, and she just so happened to cook cakes for us. And then we seek that safety and love after having a bad day at work or a tricky weekend with the kids, and we eat cake because we're trying to connect back to grandma's safety and love again. So you can effectively sort of deal with the stress in the present, but also start to just sort of disconnect some of those triggers from the past as well.
Yeah.
But essentially what you do, it's a 4-step process. So I talk about name it, rate it, tap it, test it. So Step number 1 is naming the problem, and that you have to be as specific as possible. So if you're looking at working on a food you're craving or a stressful situation, you don't just want to talk about, oh, I eat so much all the time, because that's a very general statement and the EFT won't be as effective as it could be. But if, however, you sort of have a bag of chips in front of you and you're like, I'm really craving these salty, crunchy chips, that's really specific and you'll probably get a much better result for that. So name the problem. And the problem can either be a symptom, so something like craving chips, or it can be an emotion. So it can be anger or sadness or stress or what have you. Or it can be a memory. So you can be choosing that as your target. So that's step number 1. You name the problem you want to work on.
Yeah.
And then So it can
be a physical thing or an emotional thing. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Physical or emotional. And often if you're thinking about an emotional experience, so say you're very angry for whatever reason, it's really important to sort of name where you might feel that anger. So it might be in your shoulders or in your chest or in your stomach, wherever it is that you sort of normally experience anger. Yeah. So that's naming it. And then you rate it. So you rate the intensity, so the negative intensity of this, whether it's the physical craving for the food or the sense of anger or sadness or stress or the sort of the trauma that you think about when you think back to that memory. You rate it on a scale of 0 to 10, which we call the SUD scale. And so 10 is like, it's super intense, I can't control myself from eating these chips, or I'm absolutely furious, or I don't even want to go there with that memory. That's, 10. And then 0 obviously is, well, things happened. Oh yeah, my husband made me angry, but oh well, I'm not feeling anything in my body. Or yes, of course, there's still these chips here, and if I was really starving, I'd probably eat them, but I'm okay for now. That's sort of where you want to get to. And it's really important to rate it so we can come back and test our work after we've done the tapping. Okay. So then the third step is to tap it. So we take that problem, and what we do, we create a setup statement, which is the combination of the problem and then almost like a desired state. So it's even though I have this problem, whether it's the stress or the craving, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. And that's when we start tapping on the point. So I'll just make sure the camera can see that. The very first point we tap on is on the side of the hand here, on the fleshy bit in between the bottom of the little finger and the wrist. So I might just get you to follow along.
Yep. So I know you're using 3 fingers. Is that
2, 3? It really doesn't matter.
Okay.
It's a very forgiving technique.
Yep.
So maybe you want to choose a target, and we can work through a real live example. Is there something let's not do a 10 perhaps for the purposes of this demonstration. But, something that's like a 4 or a 5, like a petty annoyance that we might be able to work on, and you can sort of perhaps report back to the viewers what you're experiencing.
Okay, I'll tell you, something that was driving me nuts, and it was leading to the glass of wine every night amongst the stuff with my sister. But my girls had reason to be home several days when I'd been at work all day, and coming home and finding the kitchen in chaos and having to clean up before I make dinner. It was just that,
Yeah.
Oh, it really just pushes all my buttons, and it just feels so unjust and so unfair. And so to, cope with that, out comes a glass of wine.
Yeah. Okay. So that's a great example. So should we call that like the dirty kitchen, the messy kitchen?
Chaos.
The chaos.
Just can't cope.
The chaos in the kitchen.
Yep.
So is that the problem?
Yes.
Great. All right.
Is it? It's interesting, isn't it, when you start talking through things? It's feeling like I don't have any help, I think, is more. It's the, can't somebody just help me? I think that's actually I don't know. I'm going to complicate it now.
No, that's great, because this is what, I'll often find when I'm working with clients. Like, there's often a presenting issue, but there's so many layers underneath, and it's sort of working down to the core where you get the most results. But can't anyone help me? So when you say that, what do you feel in your body?
Really frustrated. Just really frustrated. Mm.
All right. And perfect. And on a scale of 0 to 10?
Oh, it's up there, probably 7 or 8.
Okay, awesome. So I'm just taking some notes so we can check back in and make sure the exact words are being tested at the end. So let's do some tapping. So we start with the karate chop point, and on the karate chop point, we state the setup statement, which is naming the problem and then the acceptance statement. So I'll get you to repeat after me, just to make it nice and easy. So even though I can't believe no one helps me,
even though I can't believe no one helps me,
and I'm feeling frustrated, I deeply and completely love and accept myself.
I deeply and completely love and accept myself.
Why can't anyone help me?
Why can't anyone help me?
I'm feeling so frustrated.
I'm feeling so frustrated.
I deeply and completely love and accept myself.
I deeply and completely love and accept myself.
Why can't anyone help me?
Why can't anyone help me?
And all this frustration,
I deeply and completely
love and accept myself.
love and accept myself.
Great. So then we tap through the points whilst we use a reminder phrase, which is actually the problem. So the first point, great, is on the top of the head.
Does it work through a beanie, Sarah?
Yeah, it totally does. So you don't have to have skin-on-skin connection. Okay. So there'll be a couple of points which will be underneath clothing on your torso. So it's more the sensation rather than like skin-on-skin contact. So that's not a problem. So why can't anyone help me?
Why can't anyone help me?
Great. And then at the beginning of the eyebrow, just, why can't anyone help me?
Why can't anyone help me?
I feel so frustrated.
I feel so frustrated.
Great. Then run your fingers along your eyebrow to that indent to the side of your eye.
Yep.
So why can't anyone help me?
Why can't anyone help me?
I feel so frustrated.
I feel so frustrated.
And then underneath, so just underneath on the eye socket at the bottom there, but just sort of underneath the eyeball, so in the center. Why can't anyone help me?
Why can't anyone help me?
I feel so frustrated.
I feel so frustrated.
And then under the nose, in that indentation above the upper lip, why can't anyone help me?
Why can't anyone help me?
I feel so frustrated.
I feel so frustrated.
Chin point, which is just the indentation above the chin. Why can't anyone help me?
Why can't anyone help me?
I feel so frustrated.
I feel so frustrated.
All right, and then collarbone point, which is, on the collarbone. Yeah. Why can't anyone help me?
Why can't anyone help me?
I feel so frustrated.
I feel so frustrated.
And then under the arm, which is, I don't know if you can see that, it's pretty much where the bra strap goes, just in the center line of your body. Okay. Why can't anyone help me?
Why can't anyone help me?
I feel so frustrated.
I feel so frustrated.
All right, so take a deep breath. So that was one round, and I suppose we'll do another and then check in, because that was obviously a little bit interrupted. But just for some of the viewers, I do want to acknowledge that some of the points are either, because of the body's symmetrical, you could either tap on the left or the right. Right. Completely doesn't matter. Yep. You mix it up, you can do the same. You can tap on both sides. It's a very figuring process, so don't get too worried about that. Okay. But let's do that once more, just without all those interruptions. So top of the head, why can't anyone help me in the kitchen?
Why can't anyone help me in the kitchen?
I'm feeling so frustrated.
I'm feeling so frustrated.
Great. Eyebrow, why can't anyone help me?
Why can't anyone help me?
I feel so frustrated.
I feel so frustrated.
Side of the eye, why can't anyone help me?
Why can't anyone help me?
I feel so frustrated.
I feel so frustrated.
And under the eye, all this frustration about the kitchen.
All this frustration about the kitchen.
Why can't anyone help me?
Why can't anyone help me?
And under the nose, all this frustration about the kitchen.
All this frustration about the kitchen.
Why can't anyone help me?
Why can't anyone help me?
And then chin point, all this frustration about the kitchen.
All this frustration about the kitchen.
I can feel it in my body.
I can feel it in my body.
Why doesn't anyone help me?
Why doesn't anyone help me?
Collarbone, all this frustration about the kitchen.
All this frustration about the kitchen.
Why doesn't anyone help me?
Why doesn't anyone help me?
And under the arm, all this frustration about the kitchen.
All this frustration about the kitchen.
I can feel it in my body.
I can feel it in my body.
Why doesn't anyone help me?
Why doesn't anyone help me?
Awesome. So take a deep breath. All right. So tune back into that frustration. And then rate it again on that 0 to 10 point scale. So that's the fourth step in the process, the test it.
Right now, I think I've enjoyed this process, and particularly under the arm, I feel a bit like a monkey. It's kind of making me laugh. And I certainly feel more relaxed just having gone through that. I'd be interested to do it when the situation actually arises.
But I can even see the difference in your body. Like when you were talking about it before, you looked frustrated.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's a big frustration.
And it's not to say that, you don't need to perhaps set different boundaries or discuss responsibilities, amongst your family members, and get some commitments around that. But if you can go into a conversation and from a place of being calm, from being in control, from being peaceful, from being loving and respectful but firm, and that's going to go over so much better than if you just come storming out of your study. How dare you? Why haven't you?
Yeah. I tend to go into a place of because I don't like that angry place, so I take it all in, and then I do everything myself because I don't want to have the conversation. That's my way of dealing with it, which is equally unhealthy. But I love the idea of having a tool to use in these situations. As we go through this, I'm really thinking, the summit that I just did, and a lot of my audience is dealing with, teenage girls and the problems that they're going through. And as I think about this, I wonder if my girls would use it because they'd feel a bit dorky and a bit, like it's a bit weird. But it's something that they could do in the privacy of their room or in the toilet at school if it's before an exam or something's feeling out of control. So I can see, it being very usable for them as well.
And I mean, teenagers are particularly susceptible to sort of celebrity culture, I suppose. And I don't know if you know Naomi Harris. She was a Bond girl, and she's this famous, gorgeous actress. She does a lot of tapping. Her mum's a practitioner, and she was getting a lot of nerves before auditions and before, recording her movies, and has used tapping for that. I know some of the rugby players in Australia use EFT, and so that's obviously, a role model for a lot of teenage boys that is quite powerful.
Yep.
Whoopi Goldberg used it on her fear of flying. So, yeah.
I have seen it come up since I first learned about it, which was only, a couple of years ago, was the first time that I heard about it. Since then, I've seen it come up repeatedly in popular media and, Facebook feeds, and it's definitely gained a lot of momentum. A lot more people seem to know about it.
Oh, that's definitely true. Yeah.
So where to from here for you, Sarah? Working with people and your career with this, what are you doing with it?
Yeah, so at the moment, I do a few things, I suppose. So I work with clients individually, and I've sort of put all that I know about EFT for emotional eating into a course. So it's a digital course that's available at any time for people to join. And I also deliver that same content in sort of smaller in-person workshops. So it really is, I suppose, you can learn the tool, and I love the tool, and I strongly recommend everybody tap every day on it. But sometimes I think the value in working with a practitioner or with a group of people is really beginning to have those conversations that allow you to uncover the why of why you're eating, and help you sort of, I suppose, track back to some of those earlier memories that have impacted things like how you think about your body, how you speak to your body, how you respond to stress, and how you react around food. I know there are a lot of people who just eat all the food they see in front of them because as a kid there might not have been enough food and they had to fight their brothers and sisters for that last, serving of frittata or cake or what have you. And those sorts of things are so deeply embodied within adults now that they act out those same behaviours even though they have all the food they need and all, plenty of money that they go out and buy another cake if they really need it. Yeah. But it's really sort of providing that space where you can begin to work through all your personal triggers as to why you eat and who you might eat with. Sometimes it's a particular friend, and the way you connect is to sit down and share a pack of chocolate or to share a box of biscuits, and trying to sort of work through some of those things and move forward.
Yeah. So I feel like there's two main parts to learning more about this. One is to feel clear on the actual tapping points.
Yeah.
And it sounds like that doesn't change. They stay the same. But the other part of it is learning, three parts. So the second part is learning how to uncover what you're actually tapping for and on. And then learning how to really use it, in what situations it can be used. And in our everyday experiences, we come up with all sorts of frustrations, and needing stress management is a lifelong thing.
Yeah, so, absolutely.
Working out how it can become part of our routine and what we would actually use it for. So yeah, but I like the idea of how it is so simple.
It is. And I suppose I often think about it in terms of dental hygiene. So we all brush our teeth, morning and night. Some of us floss. And we should all be tapping and managing our stress and our energy systems using all the tools in our toolbox every day. And then in addition, if there's something serious, then you go to the dentist for a checkup or for some work. And it's the same with some of your stress or emotional issues or anxiety. If you know that there's something that's really bothering you and your daily tapping isn't helping, then it's a terrific idea to go and get that professional support, because the right practitioner should be able to almost act as a bit of an energetic detective and ask the right questions and get to the core of the issue much, much more quickly, and then hold that space, which, allows for that healing to happen much more quickly.
And I think also, just from the little example that we just did, sometimes having an external observer helps you understand that perhaps your body language has changed, or that. And I often talk about this with clients that I do the abundant nutrition formula, and going through dietary stuff, is I get them to write it all down first, because so often when something's changed, you completely forget about it. Like you talked about with the Kit Kats.
Yeah.
It's amazing how the brain, you just forget.
It just goes.
Yeah. So having that external sort of accountability, or that external person that can just check in on you and give you that the confidence that you are making progress and are moving forward, I can see how that would be powerful, even though it seems really simple and we can do it ourselves. Having that external check-in occasionally would also be a powerful thing.
Oh, definitely. And I always strongly advise people, if they're working by themselves on an issue, do make sure you rate it, the intensity of it, on that 0 to 10 point scale before and after, because you do need those reminders. Otherwise, people sometimes say, oh, it didn't really work for me. And then I'm like, okay, so how are you feeling about your husband or your manager or your colleague? And like, oh yeah, he never really bothered me. I'm like, yes, he did. Like, we spent 45 minutes talking about all their irritating qualities, So yeah, that's very common. And so it's important to definitely take records so you can track your own progress and have that great sense of accomplishment.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Sarah. I know that people are going to want to find out more from you. How would they do that?
Thank you. The easiest way is my website, so tappingintoyourgenius.com, which is just as it sounds, tapping into your genius.
Yep.
And on there I have a free workshop which some women might be interested in, which talks about the 6 reasons women overeat and what to do about them. So it's sort of just kickstarting some of that, I suppose, self-detective work.
Yep.
Hopefully it helps. I do talk about the power of EFT in that as well. And I think that's a great resource for anyone who might be interested.
That sounds perfect. Thank you so much for your time. I know, Sarah, you're about to hop on a plane to France. I'm so jealous.
I am. It's very exciting.
Sitting here in Victoria in my big woolly poncho and my beanie, it's freezing 10 degrees, and you're about to fly off to summer. Well done.
I feel very lucky, yes.
Have a wonderful time, and thank you again for your time in this interview. It's just so valuable, and I'm really excited to share it. Thank you.
Thank you, Edwina. Thanks for having me.
Bye.